Today, we are going to dive into something we all do every single day: learning. We're going to pull back the curtain and demystify the whole process, from what's actually happening inside your brain to the practical steps you can take to master pretty much any new skill. Let's get into it. You know that feeling, right? You're trying so hard to pick up a new language or an instrument or maybe some new software for your job, and it just will not stick. It is so frustrating. It can honestly feel like your brain is fighting you every step of the way. Well, here's the good news. That feeling, it's not a sign that you can't learn. It's just a signal that maybe you're not using the right approach. Your brain isn't the problem. It's this incredibly powerful learning machine. You just need the user manual. And that's exactly what we're going to unpack today. So let's start at the very, very beginning with the biology. What is physically happening up there when you learn something new? Okay, this is probably the most important thing to grasp. Learning isn't some abstract, magical thing that happens. It's a physical, biological event. Every single time you learn something, your brain is literally building and strengthening physical connections. It's actually changing its own structure. And the building blocks for all of this? They're called synapses. Just think of them as these tiny little bridges between your brain cells, your neurons. And every time you learn, you're either building a brand new bridge or you're paving an existing one, making it wider and faster. And the scale we're talking about here is just mind-boggling. You've got about 100 billion of these nerve cells. Learning is the process of weaving them together into this enormous, intricate network. And how do you make those connections stronger? Repetition and effort. It's kind of like a toddler learning to walk, right? Each wobbly attempt, each fall, it physically strengthens the neural pathway for walking until eventually a shaky step becomes a confident run. That's learning in its purest form. Okay, so that brings us to a really big question. If we're all born with this incredible ability to learn, why does it feel so much harder when we get older? Seriously, why can a little kid pick up a new language almost by osmosis, while an adult can struggle for years just to get the basics down? Well, the answer, once again, is all about the wiring in our brains. See, a child's brain is like this wide open field, with new paths being forged constantly. But an adult brain, it's more like a massive, bustling city with trillions of superhighways already built and paved. So for an adult, learning something new often means carving out a whole new road or even rerouting an existing superhighway. Think about driving a car. At first, it takes all of your concentration. But after a while, that neural pathway is so strong, it becomes automatic. Trying to change that deeply ingrained habit is way harder than building it from scratch. And as if that wasn't enough, adults have another huge challenge to deal with. It's something called the forgetting curve. And this chart basically shows just how shockingly fast we lose new information if we don't actively try to hold on to it.
I mean, look at these numbers. They're pretty staggering. You can forget more than half of what you learned in a single day. And after just 1 week, almost all of it could be gone. This is exactly why cramming for a test is such a bad idea for long-term knowledge. So what's the secret to beating this curve? It's a technique called spaced repetition. It's all about reviewing information at longer and longer intervals. Each time you review, you're sending a powerful signal to your brain saying, hey, this connection is important, save it.
Okay, so spaced repetition tells us when we should be reinforcing our learning. But what should we actually be doing to learn in the first place? Well, it turns out there's a map we can follow, and it's called the learning cycle. This right here is David Kolb's experiential learning cycle. And trust me, it's one of the most powerful and practical models out there for understanding how we turn raw experience into actual usable knowledge. And you'll notice it's not a straight line, it's a continuous loop. Kolb breaks the whole thing down into 4 really clear stages. First, you have a concrete experience. You just do something. Then you step back for some reflective observation. You think about what just happened. After that, you move to abstract conceptualization. This is where you try to form a general rule or theory. And finally, active experimentation. You go out and test your new idea, which of course creates a brand new experience, and the whole cycle starts all over again. And here's the key. Real, deep, lasting learning doesn't happen by just doing one of these things. It happens when we consciously move through all 4 stages. If you skip a stage, you're really only getting a piece of the puzzle. Now, this is where it gets really personal and fun, because while we all use all 4 stages of this cycle, each of us has our own natural preference, our favorite front door for stepping into the learning process. And these preferences really boil down to two main axes. First, how do you prefer to perceive information? Are you a feeling person who likes to jump into a concrete experience? Or are you a thinking person who'd rather start with an abstract idea? The second axis is about processing. Do you prefer watching and reflecting on things, or are you all about doing and actively experimenting? When you combine your preferences on these two axes, you get four main learning styles. If you're into feeling and watching, you might be a divergent learner, imaginative and great at brainstorming. Thinking and watching makes you an assimilator, super logical, you love understanding the theory behind things. Thinking and doing, that's a convergent learner, a practical problem solver. And finally, feeling and doing gives us the accommodator, very hands-on, loves to learn by trial and error.
So just take a second to think about it. When you're faced with something new, what's your gut reaction? Do you want to dive right in and get your hands dirty? Or do you want to read the entire manual first? Just knowing your preference, that's a huge first step to becoming a smarter learner.
So now what? What do we do with all this information? This is the part where we move from just understanding the map to actually using it to navigate our own growth.
But here is the single most important thing to remember about learning styles. They are not permanent labels. They aren't boxes that you're stuck in for life. A learning style is just a preference. It's your comfort zone, your favorite starting point.
Because the ultimate goal isn't to just stay in your comfort zone. The real path to mastery is to get better at the modes that feel less natural to you. So if you're a thinker who loves theory, challenge yourself to go out and actually do the thing. If you're a doer, force yourself to pause and reflect on what you just did. This is how you become a truly well-rounded, flexible, and honestly, powerful learner. So, I'll leave you with this question. Now that you know this, what's your front door to learning? And more importantly, how are you going to consciously use the other three doors this week? Because that right there, that's where the real growth is waiting.